We're going to do another episode of Marvel Live How to Draw. I'm your host, Brian Crosby, creative director of Marvel Themed Entertainment. We had so much fun last week drawing Spider-Man. I loved seeing all the drawings that you guys sent me. It was great to see, everybody's little, kind of spin on it. And so I thought we'd take it up a notch this time. So last time we just did old Spidey's face and neck, but today we're gonna do something a little bit different. We're gonna be drawing another beloved character. If you didn't see already, boom, we're drawing this guy. We're drawing Groot. So it's gonna be a ton of fun to draw Groot. We're gonna draw his full body. So in case you guys are I hope you guys are up for it. So I'm gonna show you guys again the tips and tricks, the steps of how I draw this character. This is not gonna be a photorealistic drawing or anything like that. This is gonna be kind of my style, and feel free to follow along step by step. I know it might seem overwhelming, lots of bark and whatnot, but again, just have fun with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just enjoy this time that you have to kind of be by yourself and draw and take 20, 30 minutes or so, and we're gonna explore this character together. So just as a recap, in case you weren't with us last week, we are gonna be just old school here. We're gonna be piece of paper, pencils. So I hope you guys have all your drawing tools ready. Just to show you what I'm gonna be using, I've got my Prismacolor blue color erase pencil. Again, I use that for my underdrawing. And then I've got an HB pencil right here. Okay, I'm going to do that, a lot of the detail, a lot of the bark texture, things like that. And then for some of the deeper blacks, we're going to be using a heavier lead, a 6. But again, you don't have to use these exact pencils. I know they're a little chopped up. My pencil sharpener got a little crazy today. But you can use whatever you want, ballpoint pen, crayons, markers, whatever you have laying around the house. The point of this is to just learn some steps on how to assemble these characters. So with that, we're going to get right into drawing. So I'm going to take my blue color erase pencil, and you know what? A lot of people say I can only draw stick figures. Well, guess what? We're going to start by drawing stick figures, or just a stick figure, I should say. And I've chosen a pose for Groot here that is very simple. Shouldn't be too complicated. We're not going to get into things like foreshortening or anything like that here. So much like with Spider-Man, I'm going to go ahead and start off with a circle. Okay, and Groot's such a fun character. And again, this is kind of where I go in light. Does not have to be perfect. And of course, I'm surrounded by comics and toys, things that inspire me. Kick on some of the 80s rock, 70s, 80s rock. This guy is just awesome. In case you don't know, Groot made his debut back in Tales to Astonish number 13. Jack Kirby was actually the first one to draw Groot. So he's been around a long time. And then we have, so going back to the drawing. So when we, much like with Spider-Man, we're going to do the center line. This time I'm going to do the center line just kind of off. So it's almost like he's tipping his head this way, okay? And I'm going to come in. Now, the next thing I do is what I like to call an action line. Now, an action line basically kind of shapes, puts the body in some kind of motion. So you kind of have an idea of where you're going. Typically for me, this is the kind of the spine of the character. So for Groot, his action line, so his spine, I imagine, is kind of coming out like this. Okay. Again, see how rough this is? Does not have to be perfect. Now with many of these characters, if you're drawing superheroes, big chests, big muscles, things like that. With Groot, he's a little squattier, is a little more small, of course. So he doesn't necessarily have a pot belly, but I like to give him a little bit of a belly here. So that's kind of where his belly is going to be. And then I make this pear shape. See kind of that, it's a very elongated pear, not a great looking pear. I would say if your pears look like this, probably don't eat those, but you get what I'm talking about. Okay. Looks like we're having a little bit of issue with our Instagram live, so give me 1 second. We'll make sure we're up and running again. Apologies, guys. pull that up. Sorry, I'm working with my assistant here. We're going to just hold on for 1 second, guys. We're going to try and get Instagram Live back up and running, but I'm going to keep plugging along and we'll catch back up here. Okay, so again, so you see where the head and the body are starting to come together. Now from here, again, remember I mentioned stick figures, right? So I like to think of these are kind of his shoulders, right? And then his legs are gonna come out like this. Sorry about that, guys. This is live TV, guys, so we're figuring out as we go. So as soon as we get Instagram Live back up and running, so we are working on that to get that back up and running. So if you're on Instagram, well, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know, but if you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, thanks for sticking with us. All right, so now we'll get back into the arms here. So I'm going to bring, now his arms are a little bit longer than normally. If you look at your arms and the way they hang to the side of your body, they usually come about the top of your thighs. Now Groot's are a little longer. So his knees are going to be about there. So I'm going to make those arms come down quite a bit. Just making sure we're all good. I think we're back up on Instagram. So welcome back, guys. You haven't missed too much. All right, and then his left arm, I'm going to bring out here. And he's just going to be waving to us. He's going to be doing a fun little wave, looking back at you guys. Since I can't see you in person, Groot's going to be smiling back at you. Okay, so you can see it's a stick figure, right? That's all it is. That's all it is. So now I'm going to start to flesh this out a little bit. So the first, I'm going to come back to his head. We're going to do a little bit more with that. So his chin. Remember we talked about the chin with Spider-Man. So his chin is a little more angular and pointed, and bring that center line all the way down. Now I'm going to create that eye line, and that eye line cuts right across the center. Now keep in mind with Groot, he's got the big, the kind of the top of his head, like all the ends of the tree, if you will. So what I like to do for him is just bring that up, almost like he's wearing a hat, a sweet looking hat, and looks kind of silly now, but trust me, we'll get there. It's kind of a Queen Nefertiti look, a little bit of an Egyptian look too. Now, don't worry, Groot's not going to have an Egyptian hat, but if you want to put an Egyptian hat on your Groot, knock yourself out. Okay, that's just to kind of show me where the top of that, kind of top of his head is going to be. Okay, now we're going to flesh out kind of the rest. So with his arms, I like to use shapes, cylinders. Can you guys draw cylinders? Cylinders, circles. Some of you may have said, no, I can't draw a cylinder. That's okay. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a rectangle. And his arms, a little bit like that. And then this hand is just going to be hanging down. Nothing too crazy. Just kind of a square. And his fingers are literally just sticks right now. Okay? And then for the left arm, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to do another cylinder with a circle for that elbow joint. Am I going too fast? Sorry, guys, I'll slow down. I'm just so excited to bring you guys this character. It's so much fun. All right, and we're going to bring that forearm up. Kind of like that. And then his hand. So it's literally just like that. Nothing too crazy about that shape. Thumb, fingers. You can already see Groot starting to come together. So much fun. All right, now I love his legs. That's my favorite part about drawing Groot. Is I have kind of these squatty legs. So first thing I'm going to do is draw almost like he's wearing shorts. Don't panic. He's not going to be wearing shorts, but he could if he wanted to. Okay. You can see the top of his legs. Again, the kind of squatty cylinders, and then his knees are here. And then for those of you who are a little bit older, may remember a sweet pair of pants called bell bottoms, and they were kind of like this. Check that out. Got these kind of stumpy legs. I love it. So much fun. So our Groot is definitely coming together. Guys, looks like we're having a little bit more issue with our Instagram live, so I apologize. Those who are watching there. We'll get that back up and running again. Okay. So now we're going to come back up to the head. So now we have, well, basically we have a structure of what our Groot's going to look like. So his eyes, that's one of his signature features. So, you know, I like to make his eye, don't go too crazy here. I like to make him just do a couple of circles along that eye line. That middle line is going to cross right through this. You guys see that? Okay. And then his mouth, so there's the base of his chin, there's the middle point, and then his mouth is about right there. Just a little, you know, just slightly under halfway between the middle point and the chin. Okay. All right, now for Groot, he doesn't really have eyebrows per se, but there's certainly a ridge that goes along the top, kind of like that. And so when we do the final lines, you guys will see those all come together. I hope I'm not going too fast for you guys. All right, now we're going to do the top of his head. All right, and again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's different all the time. Whether you watched Groot in the films in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, or you see him in the animated series. In fact, you know, season 3 of Guardians of the Galaxy, the animated series on Disney XD, you could see Groot there, and then he's, of course, he's shown up in the comics in this form. So I like to make, you know, kind of make that first peak right there, and then let it build off of that. We start to come in and make some of those little peaks and valleys across the top of his little barky. Okay. I'm gonna have Groot smiling. I like his little smile. Okay. And he does have some teeth. Look closely, he does have some teeth, so there's gonna be some teeth in there. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna come in and start laying in some high level bark plates. Now the bark that he has on his body almost kind of echo his muscles. So I give him a couple little bark pecs. Isn't that a cool new phrase you can add? Bark pecs. Right there. And again, these can be whatever shape you want. This is what I like to do. All right, and then I'm going to have these bark plates that go all the way down his body, kind of simulating ribs and abs, things like that. And again, I'm going to come back in and tighten this all up later. Okay, I'm going to do maybe one big one down here, just like that. Let you guys kind of catch up. Apologize for you Instagram watchers. Hopefully we won't go out again, but we'll keep trying. And again, you know, if I am going too fast, this is going to be on YouTube. You guys can stop it and pause it, go that way. You can rewatch this as many times as you like. I know a lot of you went back and revisited the Spider-Man drawing a few times, and that's great. So, you know, on the side of his body, you know, this is more kind of viney, so it's less bark on the sides, and you know, at the top, his arms are going to be a little bit like that too. So for his shoulders, I'm going to do kind of a bark plate up there. this isn't too overwhelming for you guys. I hope you're able to follow along. But look, I mean, I'm really just putting in bark plates. And then the vines on his arms, they do kind of function like muscles. They almost wrap around what his muscles would be. Let you guys catch up for just a sec. Sorry, guys. Turns out we are having some Instagram problems, so we're gonna keep trying though. So I'm gonna do his fingers. His arm's a little bit long, but that's okay. His hand's just kind of hanging down at his side. Just like that. Okay. And now for his left arm, again, we're going to do the same thing and just let those vines create the muscles. And they kind of just wrap around his arms, come up and create the forearms. You see, it doesn't, like I said, this does not have to be perfect. You're just having fun. Okay. Now on the inside of his hands, he does have some bark plates. We're going to make those the palm of his hand bark plates like that. And his actual hands are a little bit more viney. So again, I'm just starting to flesh out what those shapes are going to be. See, he's waving, he's having fun, he's ready to do his dance. Okay, now we're gonna come into the legs and we're gonna do the bark plates again here. So I like to make the tops of these, top of his quads, bark plates, and just bring vines in to help finish out that piece. Okay, now for the bottom half of his legs, these are more stumpy, like the stump of a tree. So it's almost like his toes are like the bottoms of these stumps. Okay, so there's one leg. And then we'll do the same thing on the other. So we'll have a bark plate, and some vines to connect it all. Okay, sorry if I'm going too fast, guys. Hopefully you're sticking with me. Can't wait to see what you guys do here with this one. And again, I'm going to come in and do those kind of stumpy legs, ends of his legs over here. There we go, something like that. Okay, now I think we have a pretty good underdrawing for what Groot is going to look like here. So I'm going to put the blue pencil aside. We're going to go to our darker pencils. We're going to go to our HB, and we're going to start to flesh out some of the details of this guy. All right, so hopefully you guys are ready to follow along. And I'm going to start with the eyes. Now we drew those circles as our underdrawing, but I'm not going to make perfect circles with the darker pencil. I'm going to give him a little bit of an eyelid. Kind of like that. Okay, just slightly cut that off. And he does have big eyes, so that's okay. And they're mostly black. There's a little bit of brown, like what you would call the whites of your eyes, is actually brown for him. And I'm going to put some early highlights on those eyes. They're just circles. I'm going to darken in the top half of those. So you got a little bit of a bottom highlight and a little bit of the top highlight. Okay. Look at that. The eyes are key to creating that expression, as are these ridges, right? If we angle those down like this, suddenly it becomes a much more angry Groot, and we're not drawing. All right, so I'm going to darken in this this mouth here. Commit to those. Commit to those shapes. His little teeth. I'm going to go in and give his teeth. I'm sure he'd have fine sheep, but his teeth, a little bit of definition. Okay, now we're going to darken in the rest of this headline, and we're going to commit to this. Okay. And eventually I'm going to come in and do a hard outline on okay. So look how fun he is. Hopefully you guys are having fun following along. I'm gonna give him a little bit of a lip ridge there. Now I'm gonna darken this in just so you can kind of see how the the way we do texture, and it'll be consistent throughout the drawing. So I'm gonna go ahead, and normally I wouldn't do this until the end of the drawing, but so you guys can see, I'm gonna use my 6B pencil to create that hard outline of Groot's head here. Kind of like that. Okay. I can use my dark lead to color in his eyes a little bit better too. I got a little bit of a pupil there. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my HB to create that texture. I wouldn't recommend going as hard with the texture because then it really becomes striated on the face. And I think you just want to suggest some of that line texture. I'm going to go up underneath that ridge and up over the top of it. I'm just going to really do this all over his whole face. While I'm doing this, I'm putting in this texture, I'm gonna give a little plug to everybody who's been doing these awesome live streams for you guys. Hopefully you guys have had fun watching some of the live content that Marvel's been putting out. Every morning you can check in with Joe Quesada himself. He's been doing a great morning show where he does a little bit of a drawing tutorial, and then usually has some special guests he's been talking to. He had CB Sapolsky on this week. It's been really cool. So yeah, Joe's having fun doing his show, and Josh Soleil did a really cool puzzle, Spider-Man puzzle that he put together. And on Instagram, Sana Manet and Scotty Young had a fun conversation. Talked about their careers and lives in comics and all the fun stuff that they've created. So it's been cool. A lot of great content for you guys out there. So while you're in quarantine, while you're hanging out, there's plenty of Marvel stuff to check out. So you can see kind of the way Groot's head comes together. I want to make it a little bit more. I'm going to come back out a little bit, make it a little rounder on the outside there. All right, so you can see the way I do that texture is I really just come in with those lines, and I'm going to give him a little leaf poking out the top. Kind of fun. I'll do more of those later on. Okay, so you guys can see how that kind of comes together. All right, so now I'm going to go through the rest of his body and add, I'm going to commit to these bark shapes. Really just be more defined with what the bark's going to look like. I'm not going to do all the texture just yet. Where there's negative space, it's okay to just go dark there. See, we got some vines here. I'll show you guys how to texture those too. Got a bark plate. All I'm doing is just really going over the top of my underdrawing. This is his little neck. And just like we did with Spider-Man, come in and darken that in. Helps it pop off a little bit. Some vines. Big chunk of bark here. It's been so fun to see, like I said, see all of your drawings, everything you guys have been doing. Super cool. So thanks to everybody who reached out and sent me pictures of your kids' drawings and your drawings. It's been really fun to see all those. I appreciate that. Makes you feel like you guys are learning stuff in this time. This time of hunkering down, you're still having fun drawing these characters, give you a little bit of an escape. Okay, so there's kind of his torso. All right, so now I'm gonna do this left arm. As you can see, I'm left-handed, and those of you who are left-handed, you feel my pain when you come across a drawing and the side of your hand just gets hammered. So with lead and whatnot. So I'm going to use this sheet of paper just to cover this briefly. So bear with me, just so I don't smudge it too much. So let's focus on that left arm for a minute. There's all those vines. You see, I'm just kind of filling in the gaps. I'm going to do his little barky hand, barky palm that he has. Okay. Looking good. You guys are having fun. Okay, I'll let you guys check that out for a second. I'm gonna get a quick drink. Thank you. Okay, and now we're gonna come in and do that right arm. Again, I start with the barky shoulder plate. What a great character. You guys all, of course, know exactly what he says, right? I'm Groot, of course. I'm sure all of you said it in unison out there in internet land. Okay. All right, so I'm going to texture this before I get into the legs, but I'm going to do that hard outline again, so you guys can see kind of how it all comes together. And excuse me while I cover up this side of the paper to do this left arm. Bear with me for just a minute. Okay. I'm actually going to do that hard outline here on that piece of chest because that chest is actually coming forward off of his left arm. So I'm going to create a little bit of space there. Cool. Looking cool. In fact, another place you guys can see him. Give another little plug. If you go out to once this all blows over and we get back to our regular lives, you can go back out to the Disney parks. You can go to Disney California Adventure and ride Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Groot, our friend Groot here, features there quite prominently. In fact, he was the star of the Halloween version of that attraction, which was called Guardians of the Galaxy Monsters After Dark. And I had the good fortune of getting to work on those attractions with the amazing Imagineers and our friends at Marvel Studios, and just was a ton of fun. And there are several versions of that attraction. So again, I'm coming in doing that barky texture on this, on his upper body and torso. In fact, we did a comic book for that attraction. Here it is right here. Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, #1, variant cover, drawn by yours truly. Yes, got to do a variant cover for Marvel Comics. Can you imagine? A little bit of a dream come true for me, getting to do this stuff. I'm a fan like you guys, so I nerd out just on the same kind of stuff. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to work on. Can't wait to get back out to the parks. I like going out there with my family, my wife and kids. I love going out there. So for the vine textures, I'm gonna make these try and sell the idea that they're round. And so I use this curving texture more so than the stripes, the way I was doing it on the other pieces. I'll show that more when you get into the arms. You guys got your tunes going while you're doing this? I'm doing this in silence right now for you guys. This is not how I normally work, but that's for your benefit, so you don't have to just hear my old man tunes. Okay, coming along. Look at that. Look at our guy. It's looking fun, looking cool. All right, we're gonna come up and do that left arm. Do some texture here. And this texture can be a bit laborious. There's a lot of it. And that's what happens when you draw a guy covered in tree bark. And his fingers are just kind of striated. Like that. Do a little bit of texture on that arm. I'll slow down, let you guys kind of catch up for a second. Looking good? Very cool. I'm going to assume you all said, oh, this is great. My drawing is coming out exactly the way I anticipated it would. And you guys, when I asked you to submit ideas for characters you'd like to learn how to draw, you guys gave an overwhelming response. It was awesome. The passion from the Marvel fans is the absolute best. I love it. I love meeting you guys out at conventions and things. We heard Wolverine and Thor and Ghost Spider, all kinds of different characters. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do most of those. So we'll, there's a whole variety. I mean, everybody's got a favorite character, which is great. I mean, we have such great variety and diversity at Marvel with all the different characters that we have. So many. Definitely, I heard some Captain Marvels in there. I do love drawing Captain Marvel. I taught how to draw Captain Marvel at California Adventure one time. Just a little harder with that helmet, but drawing that mohawk is a blast. So, and one challenge I want to issue to you guys after you do this, one of the ways to get around not having to draw all of this bark is to put him in a uniform of some kind, some clothes. If you remember from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, from our friends at Marvel Studios, at one point, Groot here was wearing a Ravager costume, which was pretty awesome. So you could put him in a Ravager costume. You can look up what that looks like on the interwebs. Or you can put him in whatever costume you want. Put him in a baseball uniform. Put him in a police uniform or firefighter uniform. Whatever you want. Just have fun. That's one of the great things about doing your own artwork is you can really create any kind of stories that you want. So I expect you guys to have a blast and show me all the different versions that you come up with. I can't wait to see what you guys do. Okay, so there we go. We got his arms and his torso all put together. So I'm going to let you guys kind of catch up, check that out for a second. You see, even I got some smudgies over here, despite my best efforts to not do that. And so now we're going to move on to those legs. I'm going to finish that up. And I'm going to start with his left leg over here. And I'm going to do that outline so you guys can see it really clearly where I'm coming in with that texture. And by the way, I don't always outline like this. I'm doing really this for your benefits. You can see really clearly where we're going here. Okay. So bring back my HB. Not only did you guys send me a variety of drawings, but you guys are from all over the world. It was so cool to get notes from Dubai and Brazil and Ecuador and Venezuela and Uruguay. You guys are just everywhere. Marvel fans taking over. Love it. I haven't been to all those places. I have been to Ecuador. I actually lived there for a little while, back in the 90s. And now I'm here in California. Kind of a sunny day today. Surprise, surprise. All right, so we're getting into that stumpy leg. That's honestly, I'm not gonna lie. That's my favorite part. That's my favorite thing to draw on all of Groot. I love drawing his face. And I love drawing his stumpy bell-bottom legs. A little bit of texture. Okay, good enough. Now we're gonna come over and do his right leg. There's gonna be one final touch I'm gonna add after I do all of this, which are the little vines that are around his body. He doesn't have them all over. You can see him better when it's in color. Or in the movies, you can see kind of those little green vines that go throughout his body, kind of connect everything. So I'm gonna do a few of those. I'm not gonna go too crazy with it. Got kind of a cool, these like quad bark armor plates. Some vines underneath. Some vines underneath around the knees. It would help to have viney knees. If it was just bark, it would be real tough to get much mobility out of a hardwood knee. And Groot is a hero. So he's got to be out there doing his thing, no matter his size. And he comes in so many different forms. That's one of the things that's fun about him. Okay, there we go. So we are nearly done, you guys. I hope you guys are having a blast. All right, so now we're going to do just a couple more things, and we're going to call this. We're going to call it a day on Groot here. So I'm going to do a couple. I'm going to take my darker pencil and do just a few of these vines that snake around his body here. You can just do these at random places. It doesn't matter exactly where. I just do a few. Again, sound effects. Sound effects always help, guys. I don't know what sound effects vines make, but it doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyway. I'm sure that is not the official sound of vines, but oh well. You know what? I think he needs another little leaf. It's bugging me that he's only got one leaf. So we're going to do one more leaf. We're going to have that popping out of his right shoulder blade over here. Maybe do a couple little sprouts coming out the side. You guys doing good? Hope you're having fun. We're going to do a little shadow underneath Groot here. Hope you guys are having a blast. Okay, and of course, you remember, it's not truly done until you sign your name and make it yours. So there's my take on Groot, and I'm going to sign my name right over here. Brian Crosby. Boom, there's my signature. Hope you guys had a blast drawing Groot with me. I know I had fun. Again, can't wait to see what you guys come up with. And we will see you next week. So until then, make mine Marvel.